I want you to be very focused and answer it, and let me know what your answer is. If someone were to strip you of your title, of your job, of your income, if someone were to strip you of your passport, your church membership, your social media following, who would you be?
This one, something I can.
If someone were to strip you of your title, your income, your passport, your church membership, your social media following, who would you be? That silence is not emptiness. That silence is the loudest question of our generation. That every crisis you see in the world today, the anxiety, the depression, the violence, the corruption, the emptiness behind the success, everyone has the same root of an identity crisis. Let me stand upon one of the greatest men who ever walked on the surface of this earth, Miles Monroe. He normally starts his conversation with some audacious statement. He would say something like this: that the richest place in the world is not the minefield in gold field in South Africa or the diamond fields in South America. We would say it's somewhere at the background of the cemetery. When he says that, he talks about the fact that a lot of people live their lives without potential of fulfilling itself. But beyond that, we would say things like this: that if you do not discover purpose, that abuse is inevitable. Meaning that many people will abuse their lives and the opportunities that God has given to them. My question now, standing upon his shoulders, is to say something as audacious as that. That the biggest crisis that you and I are facing, the biggest crisis in our generation, is the crisis of identity, the identity crisis. Now, why am I saying that? Look, the biggest crisis is not the political crisis. Even though a lot of you will think that if Tinubu is not the president, if Peter Obi is the president, or whatever it is, that things will change. I also want to also say something, that there's 1 in 40 people, one person in 40 seconds that is committing suicide around the world. In Nigeria alone, they have 7 million people that suffer from major depression. And our primarily medical crisis, they are what I call the identity crisis. So the greatest crisis, the greatest crisis in our generation is an identity crisis. And the truth about it is that if you do not resolve the identity crisis, you will never be able to resolve the fullness, the potential of your life. I might even have to say this clearly to someone, that if you do not understand your identity, you cannot fulfill purpose. And if you cannot fulfill purpose, then you will have abused your life. So the question is, how do we now resolve the identity crisis? How do you and I resolve the identity crisis? Many years ago, when I started out in industry, there was a question that was in my mind. And the question was this: how come there was a Reformation in England? There was a Reformation in England, and even non-Christian authors will write about the fact that England and Great Britain were saved from a revolution that consumed the American Revolution, the French Revolution, but there was no revolution in Britain. And they said that there was the work of one man called John Wesley. And John Wesley was the one who lived his life and brought Methodism, and Methodism was the factor that was realized not to have caused England to have a revolution. Now, my question is this: how come the church in Nigeria is filled with so many people, and yet we have an inverse relational effect on the society? How come the churches are filled with people, and yet the society seems to still be corrupt? If you go anywhere in the world, in Nigeria, you might not even be able to trust the next person in church. And the crisis is clearly an identity crisis. Because if we do not resolve the identity crisis, we'll never be able to resolve the crisis in the land. People be paralyzed. The traumas, the triumphs, the tribulations in the land will actually paralyze you. And you see people getting exhausted, getting tired. If you hear stories about people, you sit down and talk to them, I am tired, I'm exhausted, I want to do this, I want to do that. And the person still continues, and are you tired? If you are tired, you probably have not resolved the identity crisis. And I'm now going to say the second thing I want to say, because I want to give it to you like an point so that you always remember. And the second, now, if you do not understand identity, you will never be able to win in the marketplace in life. So I say again, every test, every trial, every temptation that you will ever face is a test, a trial, a temptation of identity. Now, let me say this clearly. Satan is not interested in you seeing as a sin. So no matter what God says about you, if the identity process is not settled, you either be like Adam, the first Adam, or you will be like the second Adam, Jesus Christ. So in the second question, look, the Bible said God said it to the whole world, let the whole world hear. I'm sure Satan also does it. That this is my beloved son. How come Satan still use that same thing? When we get back to the place of identity, we'll be able to answer the question of the test and the trial and the temptation. It's identity. Now, if I look back at the book of Daniel and look at all the problems that Daniel and his brothers and his brethren faced, you could always see that it was a test of identity. The ultimate test of identity now came in Matthew chapter 22, from verse 15. By what? Identity question. Now, let me also show you Matthew chapter 3. Because of our time, I probably not going to explain everything to you. The 17th verse of Matthew chapter 3. What does it say? The 17th verse of Matthew.
And a voice from heaven said,
Yes.
And a voice from heaven said, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased."
So he's saying to Jesus that God is what? That God is his father.
Yes.
Good. Now I want you to look at Matthew chapter 4. Verse verse 1. Let's look at verse 1.
Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Jesus answered, "If you are the Son of God,
What did God tell Jesus?
you are my son."
So what did he say? I'm going to ask him again.
Test whether Jesus believed in his identity.
The same place, Lord. So no matter what God says about you, if the identity process is not settled, you either be like Adam, the first Adam, or you will be like the second Adam, Jesus Christ. So in the second question, look, the Bible said God said it to the whole world, let the whole world hear. I'm sure Satan also heard it. That this is my beloved son. How come Satan still use that same thing? Because I'm telling you that every test, every trial, every temptation will be a test, a trial, a temptation of their identity. Is that okay? So when you're in the marketplace, the test of corruption is not a test. It's not a test of morality, it's a test of identity. Are you listening to what I'm saying? It's a test of what? Your identity. So imagine someone like a Prince William, here to the British throne, coming to stand at maybe Falmore roundabout and maybe give traffic 1 year because maybe he's been 1 year sabbatical or 1 year give back to society. Would someone like that take bribe? Would someone like that take bribe? Why? It's just what we do. So you see that we need to come back to a place where even as Christians, we need to start telling ourselves the truth that when we get back to the place of identity, we'll be able to answer the question of the test and the trials and temptations of identity. Now, if I look back at the book of Daniel and look at all the problems that Daniel and his brothers and his brethren faced, you could always see that it was a test of their identity. It was a test of who they were. So if first thing they settled was the question of identity, and they moved on from there. So because they set identity, every question, every test was that, do you know who you are? Now, the ultimate test of identity now came in Matthew chapter 22 from verse 15. I want you to look at it that when Jesus Christ also, when they came to tempt Jesus, they came to tempt Jesus. We got to what they come to tempt Jesus in. And I said every test, every trial, every temptation that you ever face is a test, a trial, and a temptation of identity. Now, that takes me away from morality, it takes me away from convenience, it takes away from culture. It comes back to the place of where I tell you that if you do not understand identity, you will fall for the test, trials, for the temptation. And Satan's first goal is to go after the identity. Because if you can steal the identity, you can steal your future. Identity will determine the big of how far you will go in life. Number two.
Okay. Verse 15. Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words.
So every test, every temptation, is just a way to trap him. Are you listening to me? Continue, son.
They sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. Teacher, they said, we know that you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not?
Now, stop. Let me pause you there. So when they came to Jesus, they wanted to try him, they wanted to test him. So the translation say test, translation say trap. Now, good. There was something previously. If Jesus had said pay tax, you would have said, this guy, you are a blasphemer. You don't like God. So if Jesus had said, do not pay tax, you would have said, you're a rebellious person, a rebellious person, and let's hand over to Caesar. So either way, Jesus wasn't going to be free. But Jesus knows, and I'm telling you to do that every test, every trial, it's a trial of what? Like this. So look at what Jesus has said.
But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, you hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the point used for paying the tax. They brought him a denarius, and he asked them, whose image is this? And whose inscription? Caesar's, they replied. Then he said to them, so give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's.
So the question is, they knew what was Caesar's, but they didn't know what was God's. Huh? And the person asking you, do you know what's God's? What's God's? Huh? So give back to Caesar, what is Caesar? What's God's? The human being is God's. So that means that if you're going to give back to God, what's God's? Like your entire life belongs to God. So Jesus was telling you that you're God's. And what's your God's? You're against this. Many years ago, after the World War II, they wanted to try the soldiers of Nazi Germany. They wanted to try them. Are you listening to me? Online, you can listen to me, say amen. If I want to be sure that you're also there too. So they wanted to try. They wanted to try the soldiers. So the soldiers have killed millions of Jewish people. And they wanted to trap them. Anybody's a lawyer here, you know, that before you try someone, you have to try someone on the fact that the person breaks a law. True. So there must be a law that the person has broken before you can try the person. But here were people that were not breaking the law, they were actually following the law. So we call them the law-breaking trial. They were actually following the law. So the law was that they were to kill people, and they killed the people. So they said they followed the law. So they came after us to defend and they followed the law. Now the problem also was that they could not use law to prosecute them. They could also not use science because science had been disproved. Do you know what they used to try them? The fact that every human being is sacred. Every human being is what? Sacred. That takes me back to the fact that when God created you on creation morning, there was something about you that became sacred. There was something sacred about you. And that sacred thing about you is what will mean that a 9-month-old baby is sacred than a baby 25-year-old or a 100-year-old infant. Are you listening to me? So on creation morning, God impacted a stamp upon every living being, every living human being. And not only did he craft us and he put his stamp upon us, the Bible also tells us that he breathed unto man and man became a living soul. In my opinion, Imago he talks to us about the fact that man is sacred. Number two, he also gives us the answer to the secret of happiness. That the secret of happiness is not in our pursuit of anything, it's not our accumulation of anything, but the position that we are. Number three, he tells us the source of the soul. And when God breathed into man, man became a living soul. And number four, it tells us about the stewardship of the earth. All those things are in Genesis chapter 1, verse 4 to 8. What was the intention in the heart of God when God created man? Because of our time, other time we could talk about it more. There were four things that were in God's heart when God created man. Number one was God created man to represent him on earth. What did I say? God created man to do what? To represent him on earth. So therefore, man is supposed to be like a lower, as a regent of God, to take charge of this earth without God. We were for God. So if you look at Genesis chapter 2, the Bible says God did not even send the rain of this earth because there was not yet man was created. So until man was created, there was not even rain. So anything you see rain fall, you understand that rain only came because man actually was created. Number two, man was created to reflect. Man was created to do what? To reflect God. And man reflection of God means that we're his image. So whenever you look at a mirror, what do you see? A reflection of the object that you see. So whenever you look at man, what should you see? A reflection of God, the Almighty God. When apostles in the marketplace goes to the place, into the market, into the marketplace, what should people see? They should see the image of God, and not the image of the man. So God created man for four things. Number one was to do what to represent him. Number two was to reflect him. Number three was to reveal him. By that time, I have spoken to you about how God revealed to the universe that God is not just a God of justice, but he's a God of love. When man sinned, the question that God asked man, where are you? Adam said it was that I'm naked. He said, who told you you're naked? He said, oh, I had a fruit and my wife. He now met me the woman. He said, woman, what happened? What did you do? All the woman said it was a serpent. When God asked Adam, God asked Eve, God did not ask serpents. God judged the serpent immediately. The entire universe has always known God as the God of justice. And even Satan will always tell God, where is the justice when most things? But with man, God revealed to the whole universe that he's the God of God. And this same God was the Lord that brought Jesus Christ to the earth, that made him die for you and I, created me. So God was revealing to the universe that God was saved. So it's a revelation of God that can only be found in human beings. That God is known. I think I'll call to you that angels cannot stand in the presence of God without covering their faces and their cherubim. But yet man can stand in God's presence and talk to him. This to be saying. It's a revelation of what God has ever done. So man was supposed to be something different that God created. And the fourth thing that God created man was to relate with him. At that time, I was also told about an experiment that was done 10 years ago. They wanted to find the universal language of man. They wanted to find the same particular. So they brought children from different places. And they wanted them to say, the first word they would say, all the children died. Man was created as a relational being. When COVID came and everybody was hiding, I knew that man not stay alone. Man was relational. Man was created to be relational. So man had to live in relationship. And that's the reason why God said it wasn't good for man to be alone. And that's why God created the woman. And you know the Bible says that in the beginning God created them, how many of them? Male and female. Do you know that any other interpretation of that creation is an aberration of the initial intention of God? So if you go anywhere and say, oh, I am Catholic, I am Catholic, I'm Arab, I am Yoruba, I'm Igbo, it's an aberration because that's not how God created you. The way God created you was what? Yeah. And female. And if you lose that, you have what we call gender issues. And you can start trying and thinking yourself as transgender, or think like a cat, or a pig, or a goat, or a lion, or a sheep, or whatever it's like. When you can just lose that thing, you will just lose it. So that's the question of the initial thing of God. So God created us to do what? To reflect, relate, represent, and do what? And to reveal Him. When Adam sinned, Adam that was supposed to reflect God tried to replace God. And the problem was this, that everything is created for that God to vote. That looks at the lion. A lion, oh, your name is called lion. Crocodile, oh, your name is called crocodile. What happened to them? Because Adam stopped reflecting God, and that's the reason why he looked naked. When God said, where are you? It was not a locational question, it was a positional question. Because all of a sudden, he was no longer in the position that he left him. And therefore, he has stopped reflecting. He has stopped reflecting time. Is that okay? Good. So, what did he do? He moved on. Okay. The greatest goal of the life is to reflect Christ in the way you listen. If you don't reflect him, because they're trying to replace him, when you please him, and none of that goes to be God conscious, it goes to be self-conscious. And self never satisfied. You know, it was said our souls will be restless until we find resting. Because nothing outside of God can satisfy us. And we must understand the initial mandate that God is to give us. Is that okay? So can I continue? Now, after beautiful, so I said every test, every trial, every temptation that you ever face is a test, a trial to show your identity. When they told the Hebrew boys to bow down, they said, "No, they were not going to bow down." Not because they didn't like the king or they didn't follow the king, but their identity as children of God did not allow them to do that. When Daniel was told, "Is it God that is able to deliver you?" He said, "My God is able to deliver me." I was not to bow down to any other my image or anything. It's imperative to realize, and also instructive to realize, that the goal of the enemy is an image. Now that takes me to the fall. When God created man, he created man in what? His image. And in the image of God, he created male and female. But something happened when man sinned, the image became broken, distorted. And therefore, we no longer could reflect God very well, and we became broken images. And that's the reason why every one of us, everybody here, is either trying to be a better parent, a better husband, a better father, a better man in the office, a better someone. We're trying to be better. Because I love the statement that says, either what stops getting better, stops getting good enough. You understand? Every one of us trying to be better in something. But the question is very simple. Why are we trying to be better? Why? Because we're pursuing an image. And the reason why we're pursuing an image is that we're created to reflect an image. So we're looking for that image. And that image becomes the mandate of our lives. And until we get that image, we're going to be restless. So, for instance, people try to look for that image in platforms or in performance or in possessions, you understand, or in people. So we look for those images, we just try to get it. And so people try to achieve. Now the question of achievement is this: how do you become such a great achiever and yet you are still scared? I think I wondered why somebody would have so much money. Or I think I wondered somebody I spoke to somebody and the person is scared, anxious. I asked the person, "Oh, how much are you worth?" The person would say something like $200 million. They wonder, why are you scared? Why do you want? Like if I have half of that, I'll never have any problem. That's a lie. Because if they did not have 3 times of that, you not start getting scared again. Because all of us we're looking for an image. And until we understand that the anchors of the image we're looking for is not external, we'll keep looking for it externally. And what we keep looking for it externally, we will never be satisfied. Our lives will be in pursuit. Our lives will be in performance. Our lives never be in a position. Our lives never be in the present. We should actually work for the position. We should actually work for the present, but we're actually working on performance. We're trying to see if I perform well or be better. If I, the Bible says that concerning us that we're seated in Christ Jesus, we're in every place. So there's a position that we're seated in. And that position is what we work for. So we're not working towards approval, we're working from approval. That work is exactly why I'm here. One of the reasons I'm here today to talk to everyone that any other pursuit of maybe of achievement, of approval, of authority, social media authority, it's an of an external validation. And as long as we have that external validation, we will never leave the focus line. Question: what are you pursuing? What are you today was greater than your greatest dreams when you started, and yet you're not afraid. Even more afraid than when you started. So that means like the position that you are, it's not what really matters. I know the lady, some of you may even be put on a bag, wearing a bag, a brand. She sold a company for $110 million. And yet she contests suicide. Yet she contests suicide because she felt empty. And she's somebody. Someone. There was a man who was beating us one time, who was the president twice. He still wanted to be top-time president because the position was not satisfied. And listen to me. After he was military leader, became civil leader, and he also wanted to be top-time president. Why? He has kept eternity in our hearts, and nothing out of him satisfies us. And until we come to the same conclusion, we will keep doing the service. We challenge from every one of us in the marketplace. So what are the four? What we lost was that we became broken, distorted images, distorted images of the king. Now, what actually that means is that all of us still have the implant of the king, but this implant has become distorted. That account, are you listening to me? That account for the supernatural successes that you can see about human beings. I tell people that the human being, the human or the man or the woman, is the most ill-suited to win the race of the earth. A man cannot fly like the eagle. Neither can he swim in the deepest ocean like the dolphins. Oh, a man is not as powerful as the lion. Yet a man has conquered the earth. Men, recently, man still went to the moon. Man has been able to go to the deepest part of the ocean, and man has tamed the lion and the elephant. Why? Of God in his life. And we were never created to be a slave. We were created to say, and man shall have everything. And you must build something. In building something, you're dominating your world. It's imperative to realize that God did not give Adam the whole heaven, he gave me example. So any one of us have a sphere of influence that God expects us to build and to keep. Amazingly too, can I also shock this? Another thing again is that in the garden that God has given to you, if you don't intentionally plant, what happens in the garden is that you don't intentionally plant, when you don't plant, it will grow. So most times you've seen in our lives that if we're not intentional about our lives will now begin to grow into other things that we do not plan. So the fall was the destruction of the image, the pursuit of life, the anxieties, the meaninglessness, the pornographic addiction, the what do you call it, capitalism, looking at yourself not as the image of God, but as a distortion of that image and the things that really matter. You know something? If you look at the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 11, verse 26, the Bible says something very important. It says they called them Christians at Antioch after their trip. It was the first time in the whole universe that people were called after who they followed, not where they came from. And until the church realized that we must define people, and our people must, by the reason of who they follow, when we say discipleship, who we follow, instead of our source of where we come from, where our trees, our tribe, or our city. If you look back to history, do you know that countries that were the real Christian countries in the whole world, they all lost their tribes? The real Christian countries lost their tribes. They could keep them as nations, but they lost their tribes. Why? Because they all left their tribes. They call them Christians. Why do they call them Christians? Because they were like Christ. They looked like Christ. They ate like Christ. They loved like Christ. They revealed Christ. If I see in the office of Monday morning, who are you revealing? Christ or Satan? Why are you revealing? Why am I revealing on a Monday morning? On Tuesday? Who would the employee that was employed, who would they say were revealing? Would anybody love Christ after the see us? You know, the Bible says that we are the peace with the enemy. Not the Bible, we are the peace. So they call them Christians because why? They look like us. Wait. Is that okay? Are you still with me at all? Am I making sense to you? Now, I want to also say something to you that one of the greatest, after the fall we lost the image of Christ, I began to be in pursuit of other images. Right. Now, one of the most important things that identity that we must understand our identity, that our identity defines our worth. What did I say? Our identity defines our worth. Do you know that in Genesis chapter 1, God gave us worth? What was the worth He gave to us? That we created in His image and His likeness. Of course, I agree. In Genesis chapter 2, God gave us what? He gave us work. What did He give us? Work. In Genesis chapter 2. He says, till the earth, till the ground, water it and take possession of it. Therefore, for the human being, your work is not your worth. Are you listening to me? Your work is not your work. I've seen people describe themselves as bankers because they work in the bank. Have you seen that before? Oh, I'm a banker. Where? Because you work in the bank. Okay, the day is not working in the bank. Who are you? Oh, I'm a lawyer because I studied law. The day you stop practicing law, who are you? Huh? I'm a businessman. The day your business fails, who are you? Now, there's a question that Jesus asked that I'm not answering. I'm not asking. That until you answer the question that Jesus asked, you will never be able to fulfill destiny. And the question was this: was what? Whose are you and who are you? Whose are you? So that's the question because I'm going to answer that question later on. So identity determines our work. So our work is not our work. God gave us identity. God gave us work before He gave us work. Is that okay? So our work is not a function of our work. And I shock you a little. There's so many things we say, but they may not be true. They have a freezing, but they're not really true. You know, and I want to think about it. Like, for instance, I know that we love to talk about our network is our network. It means that our network is something outside of us. The Bible there says that your network, your work is what God implanted on you in the day He created you. So you work for a work. You're not trying to fulfill a work. You are living out of the work. Are you listening to me? You are living out of the work. I am worthy. If you do not like me, carry your bag and go. I tell the young girls I pastor, I said, any airport comes and tells me it doesn't like you again, have to carry a broom and sweep its leg. And you are the daughter of a queen. Somebody that just lost his right in beauty and greatness. You understand? I have this testimony of someone that was driving someone to the market, driving someone that had a husband somewhere. And so she said hello to the, what do you call it, the attendant at the police station. And the attendant at the police station, so the husband said, oh, who is that? He said, oh, that's my boyfriend. He said, oh, still thank God that you married me. He said, no, if I married you, he would have been the one seated here, and you would have been the one. You must understand your worth. You must understand what you bring to the table. You must understand what life is all about. Our work, God gave us our work before He gave us work. Now, the correct use of work is worship. That we use our work to do what? To worship Him, not to get our sense of worth from it. So, even if you lose your work, it doesn't take away your worth. Because your worth is not from your work. Your worth is from the proclamation He made for you of the day He created you. He said, you are created in my image. Is that okay? So, like I said, everyone's pursuit comes something better. And you must understand your worth. And because of how brief we are this morning, I want to talk about the fact that if you don't have an identity sheet to understand who's you are, you will never be able to live through the storms in life. So in Acts of the Apostles chapter 27, from verse 13 to 22, no time here to talk about that. There was a storm that was going on, and Paul was that storm. And the storm was so bad. But Paul stood one night and said, the angel of the Lord, whose I am, appeared to me. And my spirit went up and I said, if I know whose I am, the storm does not matter. You know why? Because the day you begin to reflect God, every creation begins to bow to you. Because they see their creator in you. And because they see their creator in you, everything changes. They're not afraid. The wind does not disturb your mood any longer. The money in your pocket does not disturb your happiness. And people do not determine your approval. Do you know how important you are? If you're the only person that lives on earth, God will have still decided to die for you by sending Jesus' name. That's how worthy you are. The blood is worth everything. And that takes me to the eighth part, which I want to state here clearly here, that if you don't understand this, you probably never understand redemption. That the predetermined goal of redemption, listen to what I'm saying. The predetermined goal of redemption is not a location or its likeness. That the predetermined goal of location is not heaven. Of redemption is what? Likeness. Paul writing in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, he said, they that he forgive, what did he do? He predestinated that they should what? Conform to what? He should image, not go to heaven. Conform. Because it was the image in us, is the image we are going back to. To be conformed to what? So when we come back to them, the process of predestination or redemption is to be conformed to an image. So if you go back to 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18, it says, as we behold him in a mirror, what happens? We are transformed into what? Into what? The same image. The same image. For what? From glory unto glory. So it's an image that we lost. It's an image of our lives that we forsake. So that image is what redemption is all about. When Jesus died for you, it's because he wanted you to come back to that image. And Colossians chapter 1 verse 15 tells us clearly that Christ is the image of the we lost an image at war, an image of our lives that we forsake. You see, all the makeup is image. All filters is social media is image. All fashion design is image. All hair is image. Everything is what? Image. Branding, image. Image we lost before. And once you get that image, you look it up. No wonder before John chapter 4 verse 7, he said that the day we shall see him, we shall be like him. That means that we have transformed the same image. Supposed to understand the image, not only image. So the question that will not be that our gospel will not be a theology of evacuation of the air, but an engagement of the air. That we are transferring this image. When people see us, they should see the likeness of Christ every single day in the office. And when we see the likeness of Christ every single day, we're ready. Church. Every world changer. Every world changer. Are you listening to me? Every world changer. Every world changer. Including you, every world changer. You have to come to this realization to change the world. With the Wilberforce came to that realization. When he saw that man, the African man, was not a metric to be followed. Thank you, sir. When the Wilberforce did that, and because of what he did, slavery was abolished. Because human beings were not metrics. Your value is not a metric for you. Your value is a mandate to live out. Martin Luther King did the same thing when he saw that every black man should be judged not by the color of their skin or by what, by their intelligence, so that everybody is living according to who they are in Christ. Maybe let's do the same thing to things that were being killed in Calabar. More importantly, but that Teresa said the same thing. Give dignity to dying. Why? Because they saw them as the angel. Now the question is this: Nigeria needs you and I to be able to change the narrative that we are image bearers. We have something. What is Christ? Image of what is looking for. Question: so you and I need it. You and I be part of them. Every prophecy in your life is going to be prophecy of security in chapter 4. But the amazing thing is, you live in the simple God. That the whole world may know that this is what you are. So, okay. I want to say this for the person in depression, simply there's nothing, this is not, you are not nothing, and this is not the end. In Imago day, it tells you the truth. You are here to shine. God made you, and there's not finished with years. The Kairos moment for everyone. But the person living in shame, receive this. They are not your worst moment. You are not your failure. The image will be cracked, but it's not destroyed. God can stop broken images and practically like. But the market leader receive this. Your business is your proof. Your identity is your authority. And your volume is your sacrifice. Go and build whose image you carry. With integrity, with creativity, with the courage of the person who does not need to steal what God has already given. But the young person searching, receive this. The answer is not your achievement, it's in your identity. You were designed before the foundations of the earth for a specific contribution to this specific moment. Nigeria, the world, now you are made for this. You are made for a design. You are not made for damnation. You are made to reform this land. You are made in the image of God. You are not the crisis. You are the answer. Go and focus.
Pastor Kayode Oguta is a pastor, leadership architect, author, communicator, and transformational speaker, passionate about raising disciples, reforming culture, and helping people discover God's purpose for their lives. He serves as the lead pastor of Pottersville International Ministry, a growing ministry committed to making disciples, building leaders, and advancing kingdom influence in society. Known for his insightful teaching, practical wisdom, and passionate communication style, Pastor Kayode ministers at the intersection of faith, leadership, purpose, discipleship, and societal transformation. His messages challenge believers to move beyond religious activities into authentic spiritual growth, kingdom living, and impactful leadership. He is the convener of the I3L platform, which stands for Insight, Inspiration, Innovation, and Leadership, through which he equips leaders, professionals, entrepreneurs, and emerging influencers with principles for exceptional living and transformational leadership. He is also the visionary behind Value Edge Summit, an initiative focused on career growth, business development, leadership, and personal transformation. Pastor Kayode is the host of 20 Minutes with PK on YouTube, a teaching and leadership platform where he shares practical biblical wisdom, leadership insights, personal development principles, and conversations designed to inspire people to live purposeful and impactful lives. He is the author of several transformational books and teachings on leadership, discipleship, spiritual growth, identity, purpose, relationships, and cultural transformation. His ministry is marked by a deep passion for helping people encounter Christ, discover their God-given design, and live lives that reflect the Lordship of Jesus in every sphere of society. Through preaching, teaching, mentoring, writing, media, and leadership initiatives, Pastor Kayode continues to inspire a generation to pursue excellence, live intentionally, and become agents of kingdom reforms in their communities, industries, and nations. AIMP, with Jesus' joy in your heart. Let us make welcome the ministry of Pastor Kayode Oguta.